All right, what's up, guys? I'm here with the man with the plan, Kevin Lyman. Introduce yourself and what you've done.
Kevin Lyman, a former producer of the band's Warped Tour, now professor at USC, and recovering from 37 years in the music business.
Yeah, this is what it looks like after Warped Tour ends. If you guys wanted to know what he's up to,
it is. I've pretty much gave my leg to the last summer of Warped Tour, but recovering now, and going to start focusing on taking care of myself for a little bit.
For the first time, I'm sure, in a long time.
Yeah, it was definitely a wake-up call.
It happens after 24 years of doing the same
24
shit
years,
every
37 years of touring. It's one of those things that we all think that the show must go on, I think, a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, one of the things I've been pushing a lot with, some of the initiative I've had, that the show doesn't have to go on. We have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and I mean, that is you're right. Like, from even being on just a few tours, like, that's something very real. Like, we don't take care of ourselves because we can't.
We don't. I mean, you go into a city, you have to do your show, and being the road is not the healthiest environment. I know that we've worked hard to make it better. Right. But it's still not the healthiest environment, no matter what we do. And but there's always got to be that show done that night. And,
exactly.
And we hear about our lead singers, and we hear about these things, with Kyle passing away, and it's like, but there's just a big long tail to that. There's the sound people, the crew people, the drivers, and everyone pushes themselves really hard. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, so when I was on tour 2017 with AP, every spare second I had, I put together 8 documentaries about different crew members on the tour. And they are they start before anybody starts, and they leave the site after everybody leaves, and it's nonstop for them. And so the fact that you guys had the medical team out, like Travis and that, I think that goes a really long way.
It's always been a big part, having Mike Farr out there for Music Cares, for people who maybe are challenged with issues from stress of being on the road, to addiction issues or issues of recovery. I've always felt that you need to make the best environment possible. And as we grew, we were able to do that. In 1995, I think a lot of it, I wish I could have started when I started Warped Tour, and maybe people like Brad Knoll, we would have been able to give them the resources to still be with us. But we still have those stories, and so many of them nowadays, where it's tough out there. But otherwise it was great. It was a great last summer. We had a super fun time. We got super lucky. The weather couldn't have been better. I mean, it was a complete reverse fortunes of 2017, where everything that went wrong, everything that went wrong. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. That in 2017, the weather was horrible, the routing was horrible. We had promoters going out of business, and then and so we were challenged that year. Come back. I knew I needed to take care of this. I thought I could get through one summer, and then but your body sometimes just says nope. It's going to take control, and that's what happened with me, and I'm lucky to be sitting here. So literally lucky to be sitting here. So let's go back before Warped Tour, Lollapalooza. Let's talk about how you got into the music industry in the first place. How'd you get into music, and what was your upbringing like? Well, I was an adopted child, and I lived in a house with a brother and 2 sisters, all adopted from different families. Wow. So a very, very working class family. Good parents that did the best they could for us. We all learned that the essence of work at a young age. So we all had jobs. I think I started working when I was 9 or 10.
Wow.
Doing things.
Wow.
And always had 1 or 2 jobs all the way through high school. Went to college at Cal Poly Pomona, which was pretty awesome. I just saw that it was now one of the top ranked public schools in the West. But I didn't know what I was going to do in school. I was kind of bouncing, floating around school, and then fell in love with live music by getting involved with the concert committee and putting on shows, and then I was on the ski team, where I initially injured my body but beat it up, and started raising money by putting on concerts for the ski team. Wow. So I'd bring bands out from LA. There was bands from the scene back then, Chardon Square, and the Targets, and Fishbone was just starting out, and some of those things, and I'd bring them out to Pomona and Claremont and do shows, and got a reputation for putting on concerts out there. But all the money that was raised was so we could fund our ski team.
Right. Wow, what an, like, how did you come up with that idea?
You know, it was just kind of I don't know, you know, it was like I just saw this opportunity, like there was no clubs out there like the Fox or the Glass House. Right. There was nowhere that was doing live shows out there. There was a small promoter doing stuff in bars, Pat Bassage. And then I just said, you know, we could do this, and just started doing it, renting fraternity houses for like $1,000 and doing 5 bands, $5, all the beer you could drink. When the beer would run out, we'd run out the back door. and the cops were used to going to the fraternity house and then come back and pay the fraternity house. Wow. And then I started challenging renting facilities, airport hangars, things and doing shows.
Okay.
And the school, you know, I was told you couldn't sell beer, so I gave the beer for free and sold the mugs for $5. You know, things like that.
Brilliant.
I was always challenging. You know, I'd be in a lot more trouble now, a lot quicker, but I was always able to challenge things, and I continue to do that. Worked at a community college near Cal Poly, Citrus College. Started $2 Tuesdays, where we would have 2 punk bands for $2.
It's like the Fever. They're doing like
it wasn't a great business model for me because it was I'd give each band $1. So if you're charging $2, there was 2 bands. Yeah, all I did, you know, we set up the PA in the student center and would run these great concerts, and we were getting a few hundred people showing up.
Wow.
And then clean up everything, go clean the parking lot before the administration would find out in the morning. And then I got to do an Oingo Boingo concert in the gymnasium. And then, you know, it just kind of, and then I went away. And then I graduated college, moved to Hawaii, ran a weight loss camp for girls in Hawaii.
Wow.
And for a while, and then came back here, and that experience I had, and that's what I'm trying to teach. It's all those experiences you have, and get that experience as early as possible. And someone said, hey, the sound company that did my shows out in Pomona said, hey, there's a club in LA that needs a stage manager. You'd be great for it. So I found myself all of a sudden stage managing at Fender's Ballroom, kind of a legendary punk club in LA, in Long Beach actually, with a promoter that was doing shows kind of along that Americana roots thing, Lone Justice, the Blasters, and things like that. Wow. And then they co-promoted with Golden Voice, which we all know Golden Voice is the company, early Golden Voice. And
wow.
It turned out, you know, at that point, Paul Tollett, who now runs Golden Voice, was working for Gary, and he went to Cal Poly Pomona. And Brian, so we reconnected through that. And it was a Motorhead show in a club, and I did Motorhead in a club like back then. And
wow.
I was the guy who got to do it, and then they liked the way I worked, and I started picking up all the Golden Voice shows, and it just started spilling out, and my company started growing and more, and I always had a Kevin Lyman production services, and there was a point where we were running about 320 shows a year in the LA area.
Almost every day.
Every day. I was working every day. Yeah, I was working. So I guess, you know, some people say, oh gosh, you tour hard on Warped Tour. I go, I've always worked hard.
You don't even know. Yeah. You don't even know. That's like a normal thing for you that you're used to. And like starting out at such a young age, I think that you're right, like that sets you up for a lot of success if you really start early.
It's starting early, and it's those relationships, and that's, you know, as I'm trying to teach right now, I have, you know, students that I'm like, it's all those things, and building relationships and building over time and being patient. I think that's the problem sometimes. We look at these instant successes, and you're going to have some instant successes. There's always going to be that 2%.
Yeah.
That's going to have that big moment or success or develop that. Most of it's a grind. This business is a grind.
It's hard. It's hard.
I mean, there's nothing about this business that's easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The easiest part about this business is because you a lot of times answer to yourself, which is the best part, but the relationships you build, but it's a grind. This, you know, I've been grinding it for 37 years. It's never been easy.
Yeah.
And you know, this summer was very important to me because coming off of that rough year, it was our one rough year. So I mean, if you were playing sports and you had 23-1 seasons, you know, or 22-1 at that point, and you know, everyone's going to remember you for your last thing. And I just said, screw this. I'm going to go out, put together what I think would be great, reconnect people to it, and we had our second biggest Warped Tour ever. Yeah.
Wow.
And once it also became, I think it was a priority for people again. Warped kind of think people took it for granted.
I completely agree with you.
I think it was.
I'll go next year.
I'll go next year. If that band's, and then bands were touring. If my favorite band was going to be right near, I'm going to spend my money to see my favorite band. Yeah. I'm not giving. Warped lineup's not my. Even though I used to go to see everyone and watch. Now I just like this band.
And like I used to go get my shirts for school at Warped Tour every summer. That was like back to school.
So it wasn't a priority. I think, and we made it a priority again this year by saying it's the last one. and I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have plans to do other things, but right now those other things have to do with education and philanthropy. This whole Fend movement we started on Warp this year.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, for sure.
There's some priorities, and and to be honest, I need to. I mean, as my wife says, this is now the chance to make yourself a priority.
Yeah.
So you're around a while, so you can actually enjoy a summer, because I've been on the road for 27 straight summers.
So yeah, those first couple summers, talk about that, and before you got to Warped Tour, and how you even decided to like split off, because you were with Lollapalooza.
I was with Lollapalooza. I was the first stage manager of Lollapalooza, right. And that came from doing the 320 shows a year in Los Angeles. We were doing like 6 nights of the Ramones at the Anson Ford Theater. Then we have 7 nights of Jane's Addiction at the Palladium.
Back when they used to have to play every night.
And it was like big shows, and then all of a sudden this opportunity. I'd never really been on the road other than little weekends with a band here or something, to go on this national tour with Lollapalooza. So that was quite an honor to get to do that. It was kind of crazy. I had no idea. It was a whole different way of touring, and some of the older touring people thought I was going to crash and burn, which I almost did.
Yeah, I thought I was going to die.
I almost crashed out on that first couple days of that, because I thought you could do everything.
Yep.
Whereas on those kind of tours, you have to learn how to delegate a little bit to get things done. But I pulled it back together and got to do that, and then did a couple other follow-up summers with them. And then in 1995, I just decided that it kind of was going to. It's weird that it's bookending it, that maybe it was time to get that real job, maybe be a school teacher, something like that, use that college degree I had, and then luckily was able to start the Warped Tour. And now it's weird that I'm bookending it with going into education, going maybe into what I was doing, and then probably just like I bypassed some steps on Lollapalooza, by just going out on this big tour, and now I've kind of bypassed, because I'm teaching at USC, and people are like, how did that happen? And I go, it was just.
You're like, that's why you get a degree.
I go, well, I get a degree, and I had to put my first resume together for my entire life. They recruited me, but there were some formalities that I had to do, and one of them was put a resume
What
together.
did you put? Warped Tour, 24 years.
I asked in the office, it was, and that's the thing, you look at Warped Tour, but you get known for one thing, but there's a lot of other great things we've done through the years, and brands I've got to work with and continue to work with. So, it's Warped will be fun memories, but now it's time for someone else. There's a lot of people out there that have expressed that they could do it better.
Let's see what you got.
And I hope they can.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Hope, because we had to recreate this from no one was touring this way. No one was doing these types of tours the way we did it. Warped was done a unique way.
Yeah.
Agree or disagree, it lasted for 24 years.
24 years.
And you saw those emotions that it stirred up this summer of people who it was really important to a segment of their life. You know?
Definitely. And like to see Pennywise play, from the first tour to like the last song, that's completely crazy.
Could have been better time with the rain afterwards. As soon as the show ended, and it started pouring rain, they were all hanging out in the parking lot.
Well, I mean, you guys were in Florida, right? For the last days? Well, what are you as Florida?
Yeah, we looked up though. There was no clouds, so it was a good time. It was a great end. It was a great end. And we've got these 25th anniversary shows coming up.
Yeah.
We'll be announcing shortly. It looks like we're getting closer to. I want to have that announcement together by Halloween.
Oh yeah. Oh, amazing. So like, what's the plan for that?
There'll be a 2-day event on the West Coast and 2-day event on the East Coast.
Okay.
And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event in June. So we'll probably late June, we're looking at the weekend before 4th of July on the East Coast.
Perfect.
And we're just trying to figure out the West Coast.
Yeah. Would you also consider like doing like a Texas?
I think next year, the nice thing is if it went well and we still feel cool about working together and doing everything, and it went well, maybe the next year we can go to Toronto and Dallas or something. We don't have to, it's not like we have to fix it.
Right.
Because we were lucky enough to play over 40 cities. We played 46 or 48 cities in the U.S., and we could pick and choose.
Wow. It's amazing. So how did you build the relationship with Vans? How'd you bring them into this?
Well, I'd been doing, I got known to Vans, I guess, through some of the action sports stuff I was doing. I was doing the Swatch.
Makes sense.
I did the Swatch Impact Tour, the Vision Skate Escape, all these events that were kind of skating and music related, and then Board Aid, boarding for breast cancer. I was putting on those events. So I was aware of Vans, and they were aware of me. And it was a fortuitous thing that I got a call from them to come in, and I think they wanted me to talk to me about running their amateur skate program.
Wow.
But then I told them about this awesome tour I'd started in 1995. It was that right after the first year, even though it wasn't extremely awesome at that point. It was awesome for the people on it, but people didn't quite know about it yet.
They didn't know what it was.
And
because I mean, back then, like, you didn't have like YouTube advertising.
No,
you didn't have like TV, like MTV. Like, you know what I mean?
Like, a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
And a lot of
yeah.
And we got to do it again. You know, and then getting involved with Vans. It was great working with Steve Van Doren all these years. There's no one that represents a brand better.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from Steve. He represents that Vans brand so well, and I think in many ways I learned from him about how to represent the Warp brand. And we had to figure it out as we went.
Yeah. So logistically speaking, putting on something like Warp Tour, what did that take? Like what? Because I mean, like you said, like that was like one of the first of its kind, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my production background, that was a nice thing.
Yeah,
like, producing all these shows and everything gave me the background, kind of put the production together. The first year we kind of just had to go out there and we kind of wung it.
Wung it. Is that the past tense
we
of wing?
completely wung it. I don't, you know, and to think back then, and then if you ever heard anyone complain now that was on that tour, you know, and it was interesting. You get in these little things. I mean, the other day, I don't know. I'm bored. I can't really do much right now.
Yeah.
And watching a couple of crew guys complaining about Warp Tour, about the food or something. I don't know. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, it's like food's fantastic.
It's so good. It's so good every day.
You know, and just hearing people whine. I go, back then we didn't have any catering.
Yeah.
We loaded the trucks ourselves. We had some days where there was no stage hands.
Yeah.
But we made it happen because we believed in it. And I got to work with a lot of great people that still remain some of my best friends.
So yeah, how does because we talked about it a little bit on Warped Tour briefly about how the scene has changed, even from like how, like if there's beef, like how it's handled now versus how it was handled then.
Well, I think, you know, that's the problem. I think, you know, these bands need to start taking the time to meet people and attacking each other on social media without meeting them face to face,
and just assuming that, you know, what they say is who they are.
Yeah,
you know?
you meet them, you know, and I always told some of these bands, some of the most vocal bands about
don't get stung by that bee now.
Yeah,
don't you get stung by that bee.
Some of the most vocal bands, you know, about other bands, you know, that never did maybe Warped Tour because they didn't want to tour with those bands. I say you really missed out, because you wanted to be a band like Anti-Flag that said, yeah, put us right before a band that maybe, you know, speaks. Let us come out there. We want people to hear us. Yeah. We want the most people to possibly hear us, because you know what? People aren't going to go through all their lives like singing "Suck My Fuck." You know, it's not.
Oh my God.
It's not really possible for a moment in time.
Yeah.
And if you took the time to get to know people like Franz and these people like that, they're actually genuinely good people.
Like Franz is a businessman. He's a smart guy.
He's a smart guy.
He's
a good guy. He found a shtick, and I would say a lot of that stuff that he does is shtick, because he doesn't walk around the street doing
and say "suck my fuck." Like, he's not that kind of guy.
But you know what?
The dude was unmade, for Christ's sake.
And then when you have, you know, a band like Anti-Flag that's always said some very important things. Yeah. They're like, let us play right after them, because you know what? Their fans are going to hear us. Yeah. And maybe they're going to gravitate over to something else that's more meaningful.
Yeah, and hear about, you know, like the state of the government and how they oppress people. And,
and that's the thing, because people don't realize that my background was always politically active. We were always involved in philanthropy. We were always throwing benefit shows in LA. We always wanted change, and I want change too. But the scene really needs to pull together. Yeah, it really needs to pull together. You guys don't get the support of big pop radio. You guys are dependent on each other. You guys really. That's what made punk. We all depended on each other. Yeah. And I think it needs to get back to that. Yeah. And I've been told that, maybe with Warped Tour gone, that'll happen. I hope so. Yeah. I don't know how Warped Tour kept it from being that. But if that's what people say, then great. Maybe I missed something there.
Yeah, I mean, other than like that, like how do you think people could come together, or how should that happen? You know, like what's the way? Because obviously social media is
being willing to discuss things face to face with people. That's why I always said, anyone who had a problem with me, come meet me, come talk face to face.
Exactly.
The ones who did usually could find some sort of common ground. We may agree to disagree on a couple things, but then I always say, put yourself in my shoes when you're making those decisions at such a rapid fire pace that you don't really get to think about them.
Yeah.
You know, you've been out on the tour. You see how quickly we make decisions out there because we have to.
You have to. Like when it's raining, like that's like critical, critical time.
And was there a couple decisions? Maybe if I had time to go sit for a few hours or something, maybe I wouldn't have made.
Yeah.
But you learn from those and you move on. You know, people will go back to certain instances on Warped Tour over a 24-year and pick one or two little things.
Yeah.
But then I say, put yourself in my shoes. On that date, what
would you have done?
Yeah, if you were dealing with storms coming at your venues, 10,000 people, lightning, someone's asking you this.
Like.
You got people, it's just, and then you're being asked by people that you respected to, let an artist play a set. That didn't go down with other artists, but then those artists didn't give me the respect to come talk to me about it face to face. And it's all of a sudden on social media, it gets blown out of proportion. To some people it was very life and death, but it wasn't in the whole realm of it. But if we sit and talk about it, and you know what, I probably looking back at it, there's a few decisions that if I had the time and the ability.
Definitely.
We don't get to take it to a boardroom. We don't get to ponder it.
You are the boardroom.
You know, and I am the boardroom. I mean,
and
I'm watching a difference as I move into the world of academics, where they think about things. They have committees on every decision.
Yeah. So you have to go through like a process.
Touring is not a process. You become you have to be very instinctive. You have to go with your gut and live and die by it.
Yeah, and hope that you don't fuck it up along the way.
and you're going to make some fuck ups. But you know what? Now everyone can go study what we did and then avoid those areas. So maybe they can create that utopian space where there's no issues.
Yeah.
Where every person's perfect.
And cohesive. Everybody gets it.
But then to move on, you have to be willing to have conversations with people with different points of view.
Definitely. So how did you reach out to bands, and how did these bands like get involved with Warped Tour? Because I mean, there have been bands that have played multiple like over and over and over again, you know.
Well, those are the ones it fit into their careers.
Yeah.
You know, and you look at the bands that have had these now 3-decade careers. You know, Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, Every Time I Die,
You Found Glory,
the Maine, the Mayday Parade. You know, they say, Katie, I haven't seen since. She played our benefit show.
She was there.
She played our benefit show, which was fantastic. She played the 15th anniversary when we were able to give $60,000 to Music Cares, and she was fantastic. And she's always been a supporter, and recognizes where that part of her life was.
Yeah.
You know, there's other artists that are funny will deny they almost were ever on Warped Tour,
which is crazy.
But she'll say, yes, it taught me how to be a live act and tour, and that's really what we did. That's really what Warped Tour was about, teaching you how to go out and make fans and connect with those fans and become a live act. That's really what Warped Tour is about. And those live acts like Less Than Jake and Real Big Fish, who, Real Big Fish had a radio hit, I guess, at one point, but one.
Yeah, one.
But God, they've had these sustaining careers where they've all make a nice living going out and doing what they love. Yeah. And Warped Tour has been a piece to that.
It's incredible. So in 2014, I emailed you and I asked you like, hey, I'm a photographer. I just moved back to America. Can I shoot a show? And like, you invited me out. And I think that's been the case for a lot of not only bands, but creators. And like, have you realized the impact you've played like in these people's lives and their careers?
You know, it's just what you should do. You should help people, give them a chance. I was lucky. I created my chance.
Yeah.
But, someone gave me a chance, I guess, down the road, someone booked an act with me who didn't know me or gave me a gig to run. We should be all educators, and that's, what we should do is try to pass that opportunity on. And I never felt that protective of Warp, that I didn't want to make it was the festival, and I heard a lot of people say it was the festival for everyone else.
It was,
because it was the festival for the Warped Tour was, and wasn't hard for me to send an email. Come on down. We'll leave you a pass. Shoot. Be respectful.
Yeah.
Now, when people started taking advantage of everything of our generosity,
Yep.
that's why we had to start screening press again, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
was giving away thousands of tickets to people who I thought were legitimately, because it started out with people with really good intentions, but with every good intention comes a group that will exploit that.
Absolutely.
And that's why, and I heard people complaining that, oh, after 3 years they won't give me a photo pass. Well, it's not for any reason just to be mean to you. It was like, we saw that your careers were not progressing. You were not moving forward as your career, or as a vendor, or as a nonprofit, or something. You needed to keep moving forward outside of Warped Tour.
Because it's also not, it reflects poorly on you guys, because, like, you can't have, like, all these, like, not discredited, but unaccredited.
Well, and everyone was unaccredited at once.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the next time you want to see progression in people's lives, and those people, you want to see them, and they're all now major bloggers out there, and major people doing their work, and whether they're working for a publication or doing it on their own.
So, like, tell me about times, have you been, like, screwed over? Have people taken advantage of you?
Oh, my wife will say I've been taken advantage of all my life, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I feel very lucky. I wasn't, despite what a lot of people will think, I wasn't driven by finances. I had to make financial sense to this.
Yeah.
I had to make it, there is a business to run, especially when you're running a, $20 million a year project.
Yeah.
You have to be fiscally responsible. And then you have to be fiscally responsible to your family, and you have to be fiscally to your employees, so you can make sure they get a check and it cashes each week. But Brett Gurewitz said it. Somebody says, we're allowed to prosper within our scene because we don't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever felt like I took advantage of this scene. I feel like I gave back as much as I took, and maybe more, gave back more. Because 90% of the things we did on Warped Tour were not about making money.
Right. I mean, if you've been out on the tour, it's very, everyone's driven by the music and the grind. And
the work, and we pump back into by supporting the nonprofits and things. So there'll be people and would watch us and say, oh no, but there was this vision. But if it was so easy, I think there would have been a lot more people duplicating things like Warped Tour.
And they could have.
And a few people tried,
Yeah.
but they never did it more than 1 year or part of a year. Some people didn't make it through a year because it's tricky to navigate those kind of things with the ticket fees and the taxes and the increased costs and everything. We're not talking artists need to make a living; they need to make money going out on the road, but the security companies, everyone's
staging,
everything's
catering.
Costing more, and you'd book a tour and then we'd have gas prices go up 2 or 3,
Wow,
one year
you didn't
we
even
went,
think about
one year
that.
we went and this year it went up like 50 cents, which wasn't impossible to deal with, but a couple years ago we went up $2 from when we started the tour, and that $2 a gallon
doesn't seem like a lot, but
when you're running trucks, buses, generators, it's a couple $100,000
just of
gas and just going up.
Wow.
So it's been good. We've been able to make it work, and hopefully, like I say, I want to see what other people are going to do.
Yeah,
heard there was a great Riot Fest this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard it was a fantastic tour. I watched it from afar. I wish I could have been there. I was thinking about going on a plane at one point, but this setback didn't allow that. I think they're doing a great job, but it works well in Chicago. But who's going to make something that works well in Phoenix? Or I'm hoping people they'll figure it out.
It's hot as hell in Phoenix, guys. Let me make sure this is still going. Oh. Yes, sir. Oh yeah, we good. Yeah, I think it kicked off for a sec, but we're good. All right. Okay. So then you got Monster involved in Warped Tour and brought in like Monster Water and like how did that come about? Because they don't have Monster Water. It's like a Warped Tour
No,
thing.
that was early on when I met Mark Hall. There was Hanson's energy drink was his drink. There was a drink before Monster, and it was in a green narrow can, Hanson's Energy, and he was launching Monster, and I was talking to him about freestyle motocross because I was starting to bring that on Warped Tour, and I wanted him to sponsor that, and he's going, why should I sponsor that? I'll just sponsor the riders. And I'm going, look, you should support music. And he said, well, I want everyone to be drinking my product all the time.
Yeah.
And I said, that's impossible.
Yeah, you're like, we can't.
I said, you can't drink. Even back then, you didn't need, you know, it's, and I have nothing problem with Monster. I'll drink one, but it's like, you know, a replacement for coffee for someone.
Right.
Or a pick-me-up in the afternoon. But it's not something you can drink all the time. So I said, why don't you put your water in cans? You'll get the same branding. You'll get even more because people will be drinking it all the time. And that's where Monster Water came from. And now if you see any athlete from NASCAR to Supercross to both in Rockstar and Monster, 95% of the time they're going to be drinking water.
It's amazing. And it makes sense. And it works so perfectly. And all the fans always think like, I can't believe they're just drinking Monster on stage.
Yeah. So, and it was very helpful for us because as we know, we needed water. And that water is a line item cost that we have to pay for every day.
Wow. Yeah, it's
some
like
kid was
details.
bagging me, some kid who worked on Warped Tour the other day was bagging me because he says, you gave us water that tastes like pennies. And I'm like, well, one, pennies are made out of copper.
Right.
And these were in aluminum cans.
So wrong.
Yeah, so you know, I don't know what his whole mission statement was, but, you know, complaining about something.
Complaining about having water.
Yeah.
Is like the thing. Like, come on. Like, they didn't even have water back in the day.
No, we didn't. You
just were thirsty.
You didn't run out. You didn't run out of water. We haven't run out of drinks, and you know, there's so much, and other people supplying product and things for people. So, you know, it's a big moving city. We were moving a city down the road.
Yeah, literally, and that's what I told people. It's like the traveling circus.
Yeah.
And it is. It's chaotic. It's loud. It's crazy. There's a lot of things happening, and so the people that you like employ on Warped Tour and the crew members, a lot of them have gone through, you know, jail, and like a lot of them are like outcasts, misfits. They've gone through all these like hardships. And what made you want to bring them in? Because it is a risk, you know. Well, I mean, it can be.
It could be a risk.
Depends.
You know, I never looked at it as a risk. I looked at it as an opportunity. And if you give people opportunities that don't expect any opportunity, majority of them are going to take advantage of it. They understood that I was going out on a limb. And I mean, they're my most loyal people, and they work so hard, and now they're out running tours all over the country.
Like, I mean, look at Kenny Leaf.
Yeah,
like,
Kenny's doing the best, you know, and Kenny, you know, they paid their price. And I always say redemption is part of, punk rock was about redemption. You know, nowadays we write people off so quickly.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's where sometimes I get in debates or argue, you know, with someone like a Ronnie Radke or something like that. People will write him off that have never met him or only heard
I mean, hell, I've done it too.
You know, and then you see the guy and you see that he spends more time with the kids in the nonprofit areas. He does a lot he's trying to redeem himself.
Exactly.
And we have to be willing to give people a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I was the same way. A friend of mine just started playing with Falling in Reverse, and I was like, why would you want to go out with them? Like, why would you want to be a part of like anything he's doing? And then he goes on the tour, comes back, and he's like, he's totally unlike everything he says.
And he's worked really hard at it, and it's having the support of people like Brett Gurewitz and myself and people that, you know, that we've seen it, that you could redeem people. There's some people that can't be redeemed.
Right.
I don't think Johnny Craig could be redeemed at this point.
He's doing all right. He's doing his, I think one of his first sober tours. I saw
at least in my opinion,
sure,
because I've given him 5 chances.
Right. Yeah.
He's ran out of the chance book with me.
Yeah, definitely.
I put him in rehab a couple times. I've trusted him. He's lied. He's always let me down. He's never, you know, come through for giving that chance. You know, and that's the thing. It took a lot. 4 or 5,
sure, of course.
multiple chances, but to me, I don't have the energy for that.
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. And why would you want to waste your energy on something?
And that's the thing. We tried so hard with him, and I saw that there could have been some. And if he's out on a sober tour and he actually can do it, and he's not lying because he's been on sober tours before. He was on showed up on a sober tour on Warped Tour, and within 2 days was drinking a handle of rum. That's to me not sober.
I completely agree.
A heroin addict
totally
doing
agree.
rum is not sober.
Yeah, it's not sober.
So we had, you know, that's, you know, and that's where you have to, you know, but we try, give people a chance, you know. And I've seen how quickly people won't give people a chance.
Yeah, definitely. Talk about taking Warped Tour outside of the United States and what that was like to go, go to Canada initially and then take it to like the UK, Australia.
Oh yeah, I mean those European, all those times for me was I'd never been there.
Yeah.
I never got to travel. I didn't have the money, or I was always working.
Yeah.
So for me it was like, hey, how am I going to get there? I have to bring a tour. So my wife's always said, couldn't you have just gone on by the plane, because it always cost me money to do those tours.
Of course.
A couple times, I think the UK we made some money on a show a while back. Europe we made a little bit of money, but it was never about profitability. It was more about adventure with your friends.
Exactly. I mean, that's tour, right?
And that's what we did. We played crazy shows throughout Europe. We played the bull ring in Pamplona, where all the bulls run after the running of the bulls.
Wow.
We played the Socialist festival. We played a communist festival. We played, it was like wherever they would book us. We played right after the war. We played in Slovenia.
Wow.
Slovakia. We were there right after the war. And then going to Australia, we still talk about that in 97, 98, 99, when we camped across Australia.
Yeah.
We actually slept in tents.
Wow.
And all the bands were camping. It was like this crazy thing. In the morning, I'd have surf lessons for people. You'd have Aboriginal dancers. Paul Hogan, we had a party in his club. We're Hepcat, and Royal Crown Review played for all the locals. I mean, it was an adventure to me. Business has been an adventure, and that's the thing. People don't realize I was able to create these adventures through music, and that's what I was able to do and that's the thing. I don't know what else I could do. I've done kind of almost everything I could possibly do, and no one had camped across Australia. We were literally, we'd do a show, drive for 5 or 6 hours after the show, get in around 3 or 4 in the morning, and put up pup tents. And we'd all go to sleep in there. And when you're camping in Australia and the sun rises, so everyone's up at 6:30 in the morning, and we're barbecuing. We had a chef that was like a cook, like a camp out cook, and we're scrambled eggs and hanging out because you couldn't sleep in those tents. It was so hot.
Yeah, of course.
So it wasn't like a tour bus that you could maybe hide out. So
you're just dead.
So we're hanging out with the bands and the skaters. We're all up in the morning, and so I had surfboards brought down and then surf lessons, and then we'd put up a show, and the locals would hang out, and we just have so much fun. Really, it's what I had a lot of fun in this business. I had a lot of fun. Now I've just got to recreate and do some other kind of adventure for myself, maybe.
Yeah.
Not brings a few hundred people with me every time I do something.
Maybe go like just by yourself to go do something.
Take my wife.
Take your wife. There you go. Take the family. Go somewhere. So what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started all of this?
Wish I knew. I wish I knew how to manage the internet when it became such a big platform. Because Warped Tour started before the internet, really. Well, the internet was around.
Barely.
But we were one of the first tours or events that had a website. Message boards back then, the old message boards, and I booked Eminem, and the kids threatened to kill me, and it was like some 14-year-old,
How you feel now?
And then social media. And you learn that you can't negotiate, educate, or debate on Twitter. And I always felt like you could have conversations with me. You just can't.
Absolutely not.
And now you realize you don't even know if you're talking to a real person. You don't know who it was. I found out there was one person, one of the bigger critics of me, and Warped Tour had 109 profiles online.
Wow.
And luckily I knew someone at Twitter, and they were able to dig into it. And they were all kind of coming from the same place, so be able to block them and get rid of them. But I was answering them like they're a real person.
Wow.
Things like that. I guess I would have known. And two, just, I wish I had that knowledge of what I do now, why we work with treatment and care for artists that I knew in 1990 didn't have those skills. I developed those, and I feel guilty in a little ways. That not guilty. It had nothing to do with me, but I wish I had those skills, because I feel that if we would have maybe had that chance to intervene with Brad Knoll on that first year, we could have kept him alive.
Yeah.
But there's no blame there. There's no things. I just would have had more tools to work with.
Definitely. And so talk about the mental health of touring, not only for yourself, but I mean, you had your kids out and dealing with 70 plus artists with all that are all outcasts and going through shit.
It's exhausting, but it's I knew how to read the tempo of the tour. I mean, I know when during those big long runs that we run, how to manage everything. You notice how we would have here's some tips to help you get through this, or you know, you can't fix all the problems at home. You know, pacing a parking lot at night, the frustration level on both get, you know, helping them through those things, and then also keeping an eye, you know, on when people. So my whole lot of the rollout there I had was to read the tempo and feel of the tour, just to make sure that we kept everyone healthy.
Yeah. So, yeah, bringing your kids out for like that was their like summer camp. Well, I mean, they'd come out for like
they worked hard though.
days.
Yeah, with the Sierra. I mean, they always worked. I mean, Sabrina started when she was 14, and they never had it easy. I mean, Sierra was always out in the field. She loved the field. She loved working. She was DJing one year, doing silent disco and things, and then she went in and ran the nonprofit area. She's jumping on a plane. She was just working Lost Lands all weekend. She's jumping down to cover a festival in Nashville this weekend for us. And then Sabrina, she's been out since she was 14, but she's more of our inside person. So she worked in the production office, and I mean, she didn't get a break. They worked hard. She'd be up off the bus at 7 o'clock in the morning and not get done until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So that's a lot of hours, but they really liked it. And I think they've developed lifelong friends, and that's what you get on Warped Tour, those lifelong relationships.
Yeah, and not only that, but like the education you receive out there, even though it's not in a classroom, like I've learned so much about how to handle different kinds of people just from being on Warped Tour, because that's all you're doing is
dealing with people all day long.
Dealing with people all day long. So what advice do you have for people that might want to get into something like what you've done?
Be patient.
Besides don't.
Work your ass off. That's what it is. I worked every day, and I didn't pick and choose what I worked. It wasn't like I loved punk rock, but I worked metal. And I would work Latin shows. Expose yourself to as many live events as possible. If you like live events, get out there and just keep working and networking and meeting people and take your job seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously, but take your job seriously.
Dealing with people all day long.
And lastly, do you have anything to say to the crew, the bands that have been on Warped Tour?
It's been an honor getting to work with the majority of you. There's a couple of them that I would say not such an honor, but you know, the majority of you, it was an honor to get to tour with you, be on the road with you, and being part of this. You know, I knew that, you know, you needed that support, because, you know, that was the coolest thing. We had a lot of support of those bands early on, like NoFX and Bad Religion and Pennywise and Less Than Jake and Real Big Fish, and there, you know, and it just kept moving on, you know, and you know, bands like The Used coming back this year, and watching the main and Mayday Parade grow from bands that were selling CDs in the parking lot and things to the main stage on Warped Tour, or the Journey stage, to watch their paths and to see where they're going. It'll be great to see where they go in the future.
Yeah, and obviously from a fan to you, thank you for creating something like this, and I'm sure you never saw it. I mean, did you ever think you were going to do this for 24 years?
No. You know, every year someone would say, and I go, no, it was really going to be 1 year, maybe 2. 1 year. It was going to be originally 1 year. It was going to be 1 year and go be that school teacher or get that job with benefits and try to, you know, take care of a family. So it's been an honor, quarter century. It eventually had to end. I know a lot of people are, you know, but it's time for someone else to step up and take something forward.
Yeah, and I was saying to Sabrina, I thought Sierra was going to take over Warped Tour and just keep going, you know. I wouldn't want her to go through a lot of what I had to go through, and how this industry needs to correct itself in some ways. I think it's becoming unified again. And when that can figure it out, it'll make it possible to do this again. Right now, I think it's just too fragmented. Yeah, go to a show, man.
Yeah, get out and see live music. Right now, support live music.
Yeah,
you got to support
more
live
than
music.
Anything.
All I want to do is go see a show, and I can't right now.
Well, when you are able, I'm sure you'll be back at it.
I was itching. I was dying like this weekend. I was like, oh man, I was planning. That was my plan. Like this year to go to Riot Fest.
Yeah.
You know, and spend the week and just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Would have loved to see some of the bands playing, like Front Bottoms and some of those bands.
Yeah, definitely.
Seen a lot of friends there this weekend. You know, so it was hard, like, you know, getting texts or people were like, oh, Kevin, how you feeling? How you feeling?
And you're like, almost died.
I'll call you when I get back from Chicago.
Right now, support live music.
And you're like, bye.
All I want to do is go see a show.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for checking out this episode of Project Freelance with Kevin Lyman. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming by.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh man,
I don't know why my legs hurt today.
I mean, I bet I know why your legs are hurting.
I'm just enjoying it.
How can I fight something I can't see? These voices